What do you do when life shatters everything you thought was solid? When the foundation you built your identity on suddenly cracks and you find yourself staring into a void that feels endless? Maybe it was the loss of someone you loved, the betrayal of a friend, or the collapse of dreams you worked years to build. In those moments, it feels as if the world is not just testing you, it's breaking you. And yet, history shows us something profound. It is often in these moments of darkness that true strength is forged. You've probably felt it before, that heavy weight pressing on your chest when life doesn't go the way you expected. The question is, how do you stay strong when everything around you falls apart? Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds of psychology, believed that the human spirit is not destroyed by suffering, but reshaped by it. He taught that every person carries within themselves both light and shadow, and it is in the encounter with suffering that these forces collide. The shadow is where our fears live, where our pain hides, and where our doubts whisper. But Jung insisted that to find real power, we must not run from it, we must face it. Think about that for a second. Could it be that the strength you've been searching for is hidden inside the very pain you've been trying to escape? You already know that ignoring your struggles doesn't work. Distractions fade, but the wound remains. And maybe you've wondered why some people seem to rise stronger after tragedy, while others remain broken. What makes the difference? Jung would say it's the courage to look directly at what terrifies you, to accept that you are not unshaken but scarred, and to use those scars as the foundation of a new self. Does that sound familiar to your own experience? Have you ever felt that life's harshest blows left you with a choice, to collapse or to transform? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to uncover is not just theory. It's a roadmap for resilience, a way to train your mind to remain unbreakable when life itself tries to break you. This is not about empty motivation. It's about understanding the depth of human psychology, the wisdom of Jung, and how these ideas can guide you when you're standing in the ruins of what you once believed was permanent. The truth is, we all carry within us the capacity to endure, but most of us never learn how to awaken it. And perhaps the reason is simple. We're afraid of what we might find when we finally face the shadow. Yet Jung believed that in that confrontation lies the key to wholeness. And so the journey begins, not in escaping the pain, but in transforming it into power. Now, let's step into Jung's world and uncover what it truly means to stay strong when life breaks you. And maybe as you're listening right now, something inside you is stirring, a memory of when life broke you, or perhaps a struggle you're still carrying quietly. This is the moment where reflection becomes real. I want to invite you to share your thoughts in the comments, not just as a way of responding to me, but as a way of creating a space where others can see that they are not alone. Your story, your perspective, even a single sentence about what resonated with you here might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. If this message is reaching you, if it speaks to something you felt deep inside, take a moment to like this video. It may feel small, but that simple act shows me and shows the platform that this conversation matters, that these ideas are worth spreading. And if you want to keep walking with me through Jung's wisdom, through the hidden truths of psychology and philosophy that can shape our lives in powerful ways, then make sure you subscribe. By subscribing, you're not just following a channel, you're choosing to stay connected to a journey of growth, resilience, and inner strength. Your participation here is what allows this message to go further, to reach more people who might be silently searching for answers. And together, we can build a community that reminds each one of us that even in the darkest moments, we are not alone, and there is always a way to rise again. Now, let's move deeper into Jung's insights and explore how the shadow, the part of us we often fear the most, can actually become the source of our greatest strength. There are moments in life when everything we believed to be unshakable suddenly crumbles, and we are left standing in the ruins of what once felt certain. Being broken is not just an abstract idea. It is a visceral experience that cuts into the very core of who we are. It happens when a relationship we trusted collapses without warning, when a dream we fought for slips through our fingers, or when life delivers a blow so heavy that we can barely recognize ourselves in the mirror. In those times, the world keeps moving as if nothing happened, but inside, we carry a silence that no one else can hear. Have you felt that silence? That heavy emptiness that makes you wonder if things will ever return to what they once were? This state of being broken is not weakness, it is the raw reality of being human. We try to pretend that we are in control, that we can plan every step of our journey, but life has a way of exposing the truth hidden behind our illusions. The truth is that we are vulnerable, and yet it is through this vulnerability that transformation becomes possible. When the outer shell cracks, the inner world is revealed. And though the pain feels unbearable, it also carries a message, a signal that something within us is ready to change. Jung believed that this collapse is often the doorway to deeper self-knowledge. What if the breakdown is not the end, but the beginning of a new chapter? Think about the times you faced failure, rejection, or betrayal. In the moment, it felt like everything was falling apart, but looking back, those moments may have forced you to make decisions that reshaped your entire path. The truth is that what breaks us also holds the power to redefine us. It strips away the illusions we hide behind and confronts us with the hidden layers of our identity. Pain forces us to see ourselves without masks, and that is where real growth begins. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject because there is something powerful in understanding not only that life breaks us, but why it does, and how these cracks in our existence reveal the strength we didn't know we had. It is in the impact of these hidden struggles in the shadowed corners of our story that we uncover the seeds of resilience. And before we continue, I want to hear from you. Write in the comments a simple line that connects with your own experience. You can say, "This makes sense to me." Carl Jung believed that within each of us lives a hidden dimension he called the shadow. It is the side of our personality we try to ignore, the collection of fears, impulses, and unresolved wounds that we often bury deep inside. The shadow is not simply darkness in a moral sense. It is everything we refuse to face, everything that makes us uncomfortable about ourselves. And yet, Jung argued that the path to real strength begins the moment we stop running from it. Most of the time, we are taught to suppress our struggles, to mask our pain with a smile, to pretend that everything is under control. But Jung warned that what we repress does not disappear. It grows stronger in the silence of denial, waiting for the right moment to resurface. Think about it. How often do we distract ourselves instead of confronting what hurts? We stay busy, we bury ourselves in work, we numb ourselves with entertainment or noise, but deep down, we know the shadow remains. Jung insisted that the only way to transform suffering into strength is to turn and face it directly. Imagine standing in front of your deepest fear, not with the intention of defeating it, but of understanding it. That shift changes everything. Because when you acknowledge the shadow, you no longer live as its prisoner. Instead, you begin to integrate it, to recognize that even the darkest parts of yourself carry hidden truths. Jung often said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This statement captures his entire philosophy. Growth is not about avoiding pain, but about bringing awareness to it. The truth is uncomfortable, but it is also liberating. When you shine light on the shadow, you realize that the very things you feared were part of you are also sources of resilience. Your anger might reveal a hunger for justice. Your sadness might open the door to compassion. Your failures might teach you discipline and humility. This is why facing the shadow is more than a psychological exercise. It is a journey of transformation. It is where philosophy meets real life, where abstract ideas become raw experiences. To confront the shadow is to step into the hidden corridors of your own being and discover that the monsters you feared are not here to destroy you, but to reveal your true capacity to endure. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because once we begin to see the shadow for what it truly is, we uncover why resisting pain makes it worse, and how embracing it changes the entire journey of the self. When pain strikes, our first instinct is almost always to resist. We tighten up, we push it away, we tell ourselves to stay busy so we won't feel it. But Carl Jung understood something counterintuitive. The more you resist pain, the more power it gains over you. Avoidance doesn't make suffering disappear. It plants it deeper inside, where it quietly shapes your thoughts, your habits, and even your identity. Have you ever noticed how ignoring a wound only makes it spread? The same is true for emotional pain. By refusing to face it, you give it permission to control you from the shadows. Think of someone who has been betrayed. Instead of processing the hurt, they bury themselves in endless work, convincing themselves that productivity will heal the wound. On the surface, they look strong, but deep down, the unresolved pain keeps whispering, shaping their decisions, clouding their trust, and limiting their relationships. Or imagine someone who drowns their sorrow in constant distractions, scrolling endlessly, chasing temporary highs, or numbing themselves with habits that only leave them emptier afterward. These are not escapes. They are chains. The energy spent avoiding pain is the very energy that could have been used to transform it. Jung believed that suffering becomes unbearable only when we refuse to give it meaning. Pain that is acknowledged, faced, and accepted becomes part of the fabric of resilience. It's like carrying a heavy stone. The more you try to avoid its weight, the more it drags you down. But once you accept it, you begin to learn how to carry it differently. Resistance creates weakness, but acceptance opens the possibility of strength. To accept does not mean to enjoy or to welcome suffering. It means to stop fighting reality and to recognize that what has happened is now part of your story. There is a hidden truth here. The very act of turning toward your pain begins to dissolve its hold on you. What once felt unbearable becomes something you can endure, and eventually, something you can learn from. Jung's insight reveals that resilience is not born from escaping hardship, but from integrating it into who we are. By making peace with the fact that suffering is part of the human journey, we stop wasting energy resisting it and begin to use that same energy to grow. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject because once we understand why resistance intensifies our suffering, we can begin to explore how pain itself carries the potential for transformation and how it can lead us to discover strength we never imagined we had. Carl Jung believed that suffering, as brutal as it feels, is not meaningless. In fact, he argued that pain carries within it the seed of transformation, if only we are willing to approach it with openness rather than fear. This is one of the hardest truths to accept, that what shatters us today can become the very foundation of tomorrow's strength. Think about the moments in your own life when you were brought to your knees. At the time, it may have felt like nothing good could ever come out of such loss or disappointment. Yet often, when we look back, we see that those experiences shaped us in ways comfort never could. Pain has the ability to carve depth into our character, to teach lessons no book, no teacher, no easy path could ever provide. Jung emphasized that suffering forces us to ask questions we would never otherwise consider. Who am I without this relationship? What matters to me when success is stripped away? How much strength do I truly have when everything external is taken? These questions act like a mirror, reflecting back the hidden truths of our psyche. And though the answers may be painful, they are also liberating. Pain teaches us not only resilience but clarity. It cuts through illusions, exposing what is false and pointing us toward what is real. Consider the image of a seed buried deep in the soil. From the outside, it appears to have been crushed, swallowed by darkness. But it is precisely in that dark pressure that the seed begins to crack open, and from that breaking, life emerges. Human growth follows the same pattern. What looks like the end can in reality be the beginning. The suffering we resist becomes the suffering that breaks us, but the suffering we embrace becomes the suffering that transforms us. This is not to romanticize pain or suggest that hardship is desirable. Rather, it is to recognize its role as a relentless teacher. We may not choose what wounds us, but we can choose how we respond. In that choice lies the potential for transformation. Will we allow bitterness to define us, or will we use the wound as a passageway to wisdom? Jung would say that real strength is not forged in the absence of suffering, but in the way we integrate it into our journey. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject, because if pain can truly act as a teacher, then the next step is learning how self-awareness becomes the tool that allows us to recognize those lessons and rebuild our lives from a place of truth. Carl Jung often returned to one central truth. Without self-awareness, we remain trapped in cycles we don't even recognize. To him, the journey of healing and growth was inseparable from the journey of truly knowing oneself. Self-awareness is more than noticing your habits or recognizing your emotions. It is the willingness to look deeply at who you are when everything external is stripped away. When the roles you play, the titles you hold, and the masks you wear fall apart, what remains at the core? That question, uncomfortable as it may be, is the doorway to authentic strength. When life breaks us, the temptation is to rebuild quickly, to cover the cracks and return to the illusion of stability. But Jung warned that rushing past the pain only ensures we repeat the same patterns. Honest reflection is what prevents that cycle. It requires sitting in silence with yourself, facing the thoughts you usually avoid, and admitting truths that might feel unsettling. For many, this is scarier than the suffering itself because it demands radical honesty. Yet, within that honesty lies the possibility of transformation. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that doesn't reflect your appearance, but your inner world. What would you see? Would it reveal unresolved fears, unspoken desires, or forgotten strengths you've neglected? This is the essence of Jungian self-awareness, the courage to face that reflection without turning away. It is in this space of clarity that we begin to rebuild, not on illusions, but on the solid ground of truth. And here's where the paradox emerges. The more we know ourselves, the less control our pain has over us. Self-awareness doesn't erase suffering, but it changes the way we carry it. It transforms chaos into insight and confusion into direction. It teaches us to recognize which wounds still bleed and which scars have become sources of wisdom. It allows us to see not only who we have been, but who we can become. Ask yourself now, who am I when everything is stripped away? The answer may not come immediately, but even holding the question opens a new path. It shifts the focus from what you've lost to what is waiting to be discovered within you. And as Jung would say, only by making the unconscious conscious do we step into the fullness of our potential. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because once we understand the role of self-awareness, we can explore how to actively train the mind through practices and discipline that help us stay strong when life's storms return. Inner strength is not something we are simply born with. It is something we build step by step through deliberate practice. Carl Jung believed that the mind could be trained much like a muscle. The more we engage with our inner world, the more resilient we become when life tests us. This is not about waiting for strength to appear magically in moments of crisis. It is about cultivating habits that prepare us long before the storm arrives. One of the simplest but most powerful practices is journaling, writing down. Your thoughts each day is not just about recording events, but about exposing what hides beneath the surface. When you see your own fears, doubts, and recurring themes on paper, they lose some of their power. Instead of being vague shadows in your mind, they become something you can observe, reflect on, and eventually transform. Another practice Jung valued was solitude, not the kind of isolation that comes from withdrawing out of fear, but the intentional act of spending time alone to reconnect with yourself. In silence, distractions fall away, and truths you've been avoiding often rise to the surface. It can be uncomfortable at first, but in that stillness you learn to listen to your intuition, to your deeper needs, and to the quiet wisdom that constant noise usually drowns out. Solitude sharpens awareness and strengthens the ability to remain calm, even when chaos surrounds you. Jung also paid close attention to patterns in life. How many times have you faced the same kind of conflict, fallen into the same type of relationship, or repeated the same mistake only in different forms? These patterns are signals from the unconscious, urging us to notice what we have not yet learned. Training the mind means paying attention to these cycles and asking what they reveal about who we are and what we need to change. Recognizing patterns is the first step toward breaking them. And finally, Jung saw dreams as windows into the unconscious. Analyzing dreams is not about fortune telling. It is about decoding the language of the psyche. Symbols, emotions, and images that appear at night often reflect truths we ignore in the daylight. By keeping a dream journal and reflecting on recurring images, you begin to notice connections between your inner life and your daily choices. These practices, journaling, solitude, noticing patterns, and exploring dreams, are not complicated, but they are powerful. They train the mind to remain steady, clear, and strong, even when life tries to break you. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because once we begin to build these inner practices, we discover the role of meaning itself, the anchor that holds us steady when everything else begins to fall apart. When life seems unbearable, when everything collapses and nothing feels certain, there is one element that can hold us together: meaning. Carl Jung insisted that suffering becomes intolerable only when it feels empty, when it appears to serve no purpose. In this way, his ideas resonate powerfully with Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of concentration camps and concluded that human survival depends less on circumstances and more on whether we have a purpose, a why, that makes endurance possible. Without a sense of direction, pain feels like random punishment, but with a deeper mission, Even the darkest experience can be endured. Think about it. Two people can go through the same tragedy, but one emerges stronger while the other collapses. The difference is not the weight of the suffering, but the presence of meaning. Frankl often said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Jung's psychology echoes this truth. Our inner strength is not measured only by how much we can resist, but by how clearly we know why we must keep moving forward. Meaning acts like an anchor in the storm. When loss strips away the life we thought we had, meaning steadies us. It tells us that even though we did not choose the suffering, we can choose how to respond to it. Perhaps your purpose is rooted in your family, in a dream that still calls you, in a truth you want to embody, or in a contribution you want to make to the world. Purpose transforms pain from a crushing weight into a test, a challenge that forges character. But meaning is not always grand or dramatic. Sometimes it begins in the smallest acts, caring for someone else, refusing to give up, holding on to a vision of the person you want to become. These seemingly small reasons to endure can keep us alive when everything else feels impossible. The key is to stop asking only, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What can this moment teach me? What am I here to live for?" Meaning does not erase suffering, but it gives suffering a place in the larger story of who we are becoming. And once we see pain not as an enemy, but as part of our journey, its power to destroy us begins to weaken. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject, because once we recognize meaning as the ultimate anchor, we can begin to explore how the journey moves from brokenness to wholeness, and how the wounds we carry can be woven into a complete, unshakable self. There comes a point in every journey where survival is no longer enough. Holding on through the storm is vital, but Carl Jung believed that the deeper task of life is not just to endure, but to transform. This transformation is what he called individuation, the process of becoming whole. To Jung, wholeness was never about perfection or about erasing wounds. It was about weaving together every part of who we are, even the broken pieces, into a unified self. True strength does not come from appearing untouched by life, but from carrying our scars as proof that we have faced darkness and integrated it into our being. When we are broken, it can feel as though those fractures define us. We imagine we are permanently shattered, that our pain has left us incomplete. But individuation reveals something radically different. The cracks are not the end of our story, they are part of it. They are the lines through which light enters, the places where growth has carved deeper meaning into our identity. Think of Japanese kintsugi pottery, where broken vessels are repaired with veins of gold, making the object not only whole again, but more beautiful than before. Jung's vision of the psyche works the same way. Our brokenness, when acknowledged and embraced, becomes the gold that binds us into a stronger, richer self. The journey from brokenness to wholeness requires courage. It means accepting that every shadow, every wound, every fear is part of the larger picture. It means no longer dividing yourself into acceptable and unacceptable parts, but allowing all of it to belong. And paradoxically, it is this acceptance that makes us truly resilient. Because when you no longer run from any part of yourself, life has fewer weapons against you. Wholeness is not about being invulnerable. It is about knowing that even when life breaks you, you can gather the pieces and make something new. This is why individuation is more than psychology. It is a spiritual journey. It calls us to confront the truth that strength does not come from denial, but from integration. By uniting our conscious and unconscious, our light and shadow, our joy and suffering, we step into a life of greater authenticity and power. We are no longer fragments trying to survive, but a whole being capable of creating, enduring, and transcending. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because once we understand the movement from brokenness to wholeness, we can close this journey by uncovering the timeless reminder that even in life's darkest night, the possibility of light is always waiting to emerge. Life will break you, but what you do next determines who you become. Carl Jung reminds us that in the darkest night, the seed of light is born. Every wound you carry, every scar etched into your story, is not just a reminder of what hurt you, but also of how far you've come. The storms of life are not punishments, they are invitations, calls to rise, to discover the resilience you didn't know you had, to step into the deeper layers of who you are meant to be. You are not defined by what shattered you. You are defined by the way you gather the pieces and create something new from them. Jung's wisdom teaches us that true strength lies not in pretending we are unbroken, but in embracing our brokenness as part of the path toward wholeness. The cracks in your life are not evidence of weakness. They are the openings through which wisdom enters. They remind you that you are human, and being human means carrying both suffering and potential, both shadow and light. The journey is never about escaping pain, but about allowing pain to reveal the truth hidden beneath the surface. And when you dare to face that truth, you begin to live with a power that is not borrowed from circumstances, but rooted deep within yourself. So let this message be a mirror for you. Reflect on the moments when life tried to break you, on the nights that felt endless, on the weight that seemed too heavy to carry, and notice how you are still here, still breathing, still searching for meaning. That endurance itself is proof that resilience already lives inside you. The question now is how you will use it, how you will choose to transform it into a force that not only shapes your own life, but also inspires those around you. If this message spoke to you, I want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments. Which moment in your life tried to break you, and how did you rise again? Your words may be the encouragement someone else desperately needs, and if you want to continue walking this path with me, exploring Jung's wisdom and other timeless truths that strengthen the mind and soul, make sure you subscribe. Together we can build a space where philosophy meets life, where brokenness becomes wholeness, and where strength is not just an idea but a way of living. If you've stayed with me all the way until now, it probably means this message resonated with you in some way. That tells me we're building something meaningful here together. If you want to keep exploring this kind of wisdom and find more strength for your own journey, subscribing is the best way to stay connected. It makes sure you won't miss the next step we take into Jung's psychology and the timeless ideas that can change the way we live. I'd also love to know you made it to the very end. Drop a quick comment saying, "I'm with you until the end." It's a simple way for me to see who's walking this path alongside me, and it creates a sense of community between all of us who are drawn to these ideas. And if this conversation spoke to you, a like on the video is more than just a button. It shows that this connection mattered and encourages me to bring even more of this kind of content to you. There's another video right here that complements what we've been talking about. Click it and continue with me there. I think you'll find it speaks just as deeply to where you are right now.